Steve, thank you very much. It's great to have you moderating today. In just a few moments, when we turn over to questions, it will be Steve's responsibility. He will draw questions that hopefully all of you have filled out, and we will make sure in a very fair way. We learned quickly that there's no way to answer every question that is asked, or every question that a person has in a hearing or in a gathering such as this. So we want to answer as many as we can in a fair way. So Steve will draw those questions, and we'll answer those questions, and we'll try to get through as many as we possibly can. For those who are not able to perhaps get your question asked today, doesn't mean we don't want to answer it. So I would invite all of you to attend our other town hall meetings that we are having. We had one yesterday over in Marianna. We spent the day there. We speak, as many of you are aware, we speak at civic organizations and different groups in every community that we represent. So there are other venues for you to come and visit. There's also an opportunity for you to actually attend our tele-town hall meetings. You know, when we make those calls, we represent a district that half is in Central Time and half is in Eastern Time. And so we don't want to, it's never our intent to disturb your dinner or to invade your evening with your family. But we do feel an obligation to have a conversation with you. So our tele-town hall meetings, which we do usually average one a month, it's only in the desire to better communicate with you. So that's an opportunity for you. And we blanket those calls as many as we can through our district. This is about our 34th, I guess, 34th town hall meeting. When we ran, we promised that we would do everything we could to communicate with the constituents of Florida's 2nd Congressional District. You know, when we represent 700,000 people, you're going to have individuals that agree with you. You're going to have individuals that disagree with you. But that's just part of the process. But that doesn't mean that individuals that disagree with you should in any way be cut out of the process. And so we're going to fulfill our commitment to come, to be around our district, to make sure that you hear what's going on in D.C. and that D.C. hears from you. So thank you very much, all of you, for being here. I want to thank individuals from the media and others who are videoing me at this moment. That are not a part of the media. Thank you for being here as well, because you serve an important purpose, and that's getting my thoughts out. Hopefully they'll be relayed in a truthful way, but that's yet to be seen. So we'll get into that. One of the things I want to do before we get into questions, and I'm going to make sure we monitor my time because we want to spend the majority of our time on questions and answers. I want to give you a little update on what's going on in D.C. Over the last several months, regardless of what TV station or radio station that you listen to, there's been a flurry of activities. You're aware of the immigration debate that has been going on, the immigration bill that the Senate voted on, and now that the work of the House is next. I will say this regarding immigration. You look at the Senate version, and the Senate version was originated by a group that referred to themselves as the Gang of Eight. That Senate version was their opportunity to speak and to share their thoughts and their ideas on immigration. As oftentimes not alluded to, there are two chambers in Congress. There is the Senate, and it is their role and their responsibility to weigh in on issues, but it is equally important for the other chamber, which is the House of Representatives, the chamber that works closest to the people, because we run every 2 years. It is now our time to weigh in, and we will. But we will have an opportunity to put forth our ideas and our thoughts, and I'm sure we'll have questions today regarding the immigration bill. One of the things that is obviously in the news over the last several weeks, because many of you have communicated with us, is regarding the NSA. Which is terribly concerning to a lot of people. I have attended many, or most, if not all, of the hearings that are, the briefings that are allowed to us as members of Congress. The the briefings to kind of share with us what these programs are doing. I will tell you that I am, my concern, which are your concern over our Fourth Amendment rights as Americans, have not been totally alleviated. As a matter of fact, I come out of many of those hearings with more questions than I had when I went in. And so as a result, my concern level is probably at its highest peak in the NSA and the surveillance. We must have security for the American people. But at the same time, that cannot weigh more than the security and the personal rights we have to our home, to our conversations in private matters. So we're still asking very, very probing questions. And I know recently we had an appropriations bill that had an amendment. And what was amazing on the amendment that ultimately failed regarding putting some limitations on NSA, it was totally bipartisan. If you look at the votes that voted for it, and you look at the votes that voted against it, and that was, I think, 217 to 208. I think if that was, I know the 208 number is correct. If you look at that, it was amazing that in a very polarizing environment in Washington, that vote count was bipartisan. So both sides of the aisle are struggling to make sure that our security as well as our personal rights are protected. So that's one thing that you're hearing. You're also hearing an awful lot on the health care. As we grow closer and closer to 2014, we're hearing things come from the administration regarding the health care bill, and I'm sure there'll be questions placed in the basket regarding that as well. So we'll get into that in just a few moments. Most recently, you heard the president make the announcement that he wanted to delay the health care implementation as it relates to corporations. I have been crystal clear that if the corporations are not ready for the implementation and the exchanges are not there for the corporations, we are a nation of people, then that delay, I believe, should also apply to individuals. So when we're talking about a delay, I think it is not ready for prime time for everyone. So I think it would be smart to have a total delay for 1 year. And let me say this, let me be very clear. By saying I want a 1 year delay does not mean that I'm still not in favor of a repeal, because I am not in favor of the process that was used to implement a law that will affect 1/5 to 1/6 of the United States economy. Not to mention the organization or the department that is given the responsibility of oversight and enforcement is an agency at the moment in the Internal Revenue Service that is still not answering some questions by members of Congress, and they're not being very forthcoming. But questions, I might add, asked to them by Democrats and questions asked to them by Republicans. So to give them more authority, to know more about our individual lives, there's a time that we need to pause and say, wait a minute, we need to know more. So that's an issue that you're hearing a lot about. One of the things that you're going to hear a lot about when we get back to D.C. In September, we're going to be back to the budget issues. You know that our fiscal year ends on September 30th, and we've got to talk about our budget year going forward from October 1. You probably are also aware, because I would, most of the folks that show up at our town hall meetings are some of the more engaged individuals in the political process. Then you would all be aware of the fact that we have another approaching debt ceiling debate that we will be going into. So that will be part of the dialogue going forth, and all the political jockeying that goes along with that. So there'll be a lot more news. I want you to also be aware that in recent weeks we have been debating in Congress a farm bill. Now the farm bill that we have been debating, a farm bill passed the Senate, and then it became the House's responsibility to debate the farm bill. As we got into this debate, one of the things that became, I think, a positive was America became aware perhaps many people for the very first time, that the Farm Bill is not just about the Farm Bill and about farm policy. That the Farm Bill, which is a reauthorization bill that is passed every few years, supposedly on a 5-year basis, that 20% of the Farm Bill deals with farm policy. And 80% of the Farm Bill deals with nutrition, the SNAP program, more widely known as food stamps. So the House, we could not pass the traditional Farm Bill, and largely in part because of the opposition, that there is a desire to separate those two portions so that a farm policy bill can be judged on its weight, good or bad, reforms injected as necessary, and then the nutrition portion, which is now 80% of the Farm Bill, can be judged on its weight and reforms made as necessary. And I'll just inject this, if I could, that I am not of the opinion that the Department of Agriculture is the best agency to oversee food stamps. When you have HHS, who oversees so many of our welfare programs, is where most people would go to access those programs and those benefits. It seems to me that at a time where we have shrinking budgets and shrinking revenues, that two departments that are doing something similar, that is duplication. And there's an opportunity for savings to the American people in order for HHS perhaps to take those programs over as opposed to agriculture. But that's something that you will hear about more when we get back. I will say that we passed the House, we passed the farm portion of the bill, and when we return back to DC, we will be discussing the nutrition. That will be debated and then voted upon again to give the certainty necessary for those programs for those who are deserving and those who are needing of those programs. So that will be a debate that will also occur when we get back to DC. Now, with my opening comments, it looks like we're ahead of schedule than where we were yesterday, so I want to get into more questions. I want to get into more comments on the questions that you have brought. So, Steve, if we could, let's, if you can read the question, and then we'll answer as many questions as we can get through.
Very good. Let me share with you, reiterate how the process is going to work here today. First of all, I would also reiterate that I know Congressman Southerland is honored. I mentioned at the beginning he's honored to be here. He's honored that all of us are here, so I'll just start with that. I'm just going to reach in and pull one out, and I'm going to read the name, and whatever I read, if you would like to personally address the congressman with a question, please feel free to. If not, I'll read it for you, okay? First question is from Joe Kane. Joe, where are you? Okay. Joe, would you like to address the question, or would you like me to go ahead and read it?
I put in 7 questions. I don't know which one.
Smart man.
His opposition to the ACA, or what is commonly called Obamacare, because specifically, I think you're wasting the Congress's time by voting against Obamacare when you know very well that the House of the Senate is going to vote it down. I mean, why bother with all that? You're just mucking around with something that's not worthwhile doing.
Okay, thank you.
First of all, Joe, thank you for the question. As far as the votes that we've taken on the health care, and let me say this, I say the health care bill, but the president himself is now refers to the bill as Obamacare. So I know when I first started running, you would hear the term Obamacare, and I had many people chastise me for using the term Obamacare. Now the president clearly has embraced that and himself. And so but as far as your questions, you know, I have clearly voted against and for repeal. We've had some 40 votes of the, and I'm about to explain to you that. So with the of those, I think 9 of those had bipartisan support. 7 of those votes repealed parts of the health care plan that were signed into law. So to say that the 40 votes have been a waste of time, I'll be honest with you. The first thing we voted on was the 1099 repeal. And if you are a small business owner, you understand how absolutely ludicrous that was to force each and every employee to file 1099s. And so therefore, that was voted on in the House, passed. It was voted on in the Senate. It was signed by the President, and that part of the health care bill was repealed. So some may say that was a waste of time, but the feedback we got from our small businesses and other offices in Congress, it passed pretty much on a unanimous basis. So that was not a waste of our time. I think that was very productive.
Single payer.
Well, first of all, sir, I know of no situation where you get better quality, more affordable quality, more accessible quality with lesser choice. And so therefore, I know of no other, and as I travel around Tallahassee, I see tremendous numbers of restaurants where you have options. And based on those options, and based on your desires and your ability to pay, I think you get to fair price for a meal. And so therefore, you have good meals and good choices.
And that's right.
And so therefore, if you go to a single payer system, you are eliminating choices. And I will say this:
You have choices. with
no,
single payer.
no, sir, you do not. And so therefore, to eliminate choices.
Let me remind all of us, gang, that part of this process is civil discourse, and I would ask you all to respect each other.
And we would ask him to answer the question. He asked him about single pay, extending Medicare to all American citizens, and you did not answer that
Okay,
question.
let's move on to the next question.
No, because he can't answer it or doesn't want to.
Alan Stroud. Alan, is Alan?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Alan, would you like to ask or would you like me to?
I'll ask. I have
Okay.
4 questions.
You got it, yeah, sure. You want to read from here?
Will you admit that climate change is a problem?
I will admit that there are changes to our climate. And I will admit that, but one thing, there are some accusations out there that man seems to speculate as to the causes, and I will not admit and agree with all of those accusations.
How many of those accusations and what science journals do you base your?
Well, sir, let me say this. You know, when you ask me a question such as that there's not a single possibility of me giving you an answer that's going to satisfy you. And so therefore, I would say that's more folly than serious. And so I will tell you, for those who are listening and those who are engaged, they can do their research as we do our research, but to be able to, I am a human being, and to be able to quote to you a specific journal, a specific author, and a day of that publication, I have limitations as an individual. So, but I do know that in my studies and in my research, we do have climate changes. And but I'm not going to agree with you where you want me to agree with you, and I just so.
That's okay. Just one follow-up to that. Would you have your staff email me the journals and information that they use to supply you for your decision-making purposes on this particular issue where I believe that there are a lot of man-made causes for climate change that have been going on for the last 50 years?
Sure. If you will also help me, you're asking me to, and this is a two-way relationship. I would ask you if you would commit at this moment to do the same. And as long as you and I are communicating together, you see, because if you and I agree on everything, one of us isn't necessary. And I think we're both necessary. Well, I'm sure you think you're the one necessary, not me. But my desire is to respect you, and my desire is to have a communication relationship with you. So we will share information. Is that fair?
That's very good.
Thank you.
Yes, that's good.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right, the next one is, just has a name, Lakey. Would that have a first name, maybe the last name?
Single name.
Okay, do you want to address the question, or would you like me to read this?
Representative Southerland, how do you justify spending U.S. tax dollars on, quote, securing the border against incoming immigrants and blocking Senate Bill 744 when the Congressional Budget Office estimates that without increased border militarization, a pathway to citizenship for the United States 11 million undocumented would bring in a $1.4 trillion in the next 20 years to the U.S. economy? And the passage of the DREAM Act would create 1.4 million needed jobs by 2030.
Let me say this, there is probably the security issue is a constitutional responsibility of Congress. That's not debatable. If you go to Article 1 and you read the responsibility of Congress, we are chartered with the responsibility to care for the security needs of this country.
Are you denying that?
And so, no, I'm trying, let me answer your question. So what I'm saying to you is that we can debate a lot of things about economic opportunity going forward. But one thing that is beyond debate, we cannot debate, and that is the responsibility of your members of Congress to protect the citizens and provide security for this nation. When we have hundreds of thousands of people coming across our border, and I was at our border in April, and we have people coming into this country that we do not know who they are. We do not know where they're going. We do not know what they're doing when they get there. I would say we are not fulfilling the responsibility of Congress because we swear our oath to that Constitution to protect it. So therefore, when you have bills that have been passed both chambers and signed into law, like the 2006 Border Security Act, and when it is just being ignored by the Department of Homeland Security, I think we can do better.
So you still haven't answered my question about the pathway to citizenship, and the Senate Bill 744 includes a militarization of the border. It also includes a pathway to citizenship that would allow us to document people and bring in an income to the United States. So you've already referred to the fact that there are people out there that we don't know where they are and what they're doing. And Senate Bill 744 opens E-Verify and is a 13-year pathway to citizenship where it's not allowing criminals in. It's already dealing with the 11 million that are here.
Right.
It's not talking about the people that are coming. It's talking about the people that are here, that are working.
I understand that. Let me also be very clear, because it seems to be forgotten oftentimes on various arguments. There are two chambers in Congress. There is, you keep referring to a Senate bill. There will be House bills. I am a member of the House of Representatives. It is not our responsibility. We have no obligation to take up a Senate bill. The Senate does.
Well, your
but not
House
us.
bill included
And so
pathway to
therefore,
citizenship.
and so
for 11
therefore,
million.
our
Will
Senate,
you
our
ratify a
Senate
House bill that will include
our
pathway to
House
citizenship?
methods are going to be
Will
very
you
different than
ratify
the
a
Senate.
House bill that
And
will
so
include
therefore,
pathway to citizenship? for 11 million?
Hang on a second, James.
It's gobbledygook.
Let's stop.
Gobbledygook.
Let's get through this. Like, you get one more question.
Will you ratify a House bill that includes a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million undocumented?
Yes or no?
Yes or no?
first of all,
Ah,
our bill was not a single bill. We are, our ideas on citizenship will be coming out of the Judiciary Committee. I am not on Judiciary, okay? So to say what they're going to do in Judiciary, a committee that I do not sit on, I think you're asking me to answer a question that I can't answer. I don't know yet what's coming out of there.
If it comes to the floor, will you vote for it? Yes or no?
Look, I'm not voting for a bill that I haven't read.
Okay.
Call yourself a representative, you need to do your homework and read the bill.
I agree, that's why I'm Thank you for agreeing with me.
No, there are bills already.
Let's go to the
Read
next
them.
one. Joe Sierra. Joe, are you here? Bill, would you like to answer it, or would you like me to?
Read the second question,
Okay.
because the first one's already there.
All right, bear with me as I try to read this here, okay? All right. Do you support a renewable energy strategy to get the U.S. off of dependence on fossil fuels?
I support, my belief on energy and serving on the House Natural Resources Committee, I think that America is a very blessed country. And I think that, you've heard me say this before, and it doesn't change. Truth, for me, a couple years ago, is the truth that I believe today. And I think that we need to access all of our energy resources that we have moving forward. I think that what we see happening on private lands, and I will say private lands because there is an absolute effort to not expand any exploration for any natural resource on public lands. Whether we're talking biomass, I'll give you an example. Closest to us is the Apalachicola National Forest. We know that there are some enormous opportunities in biomass with timber, and the Forestry Service has basically shut down our national forest. There is more wood rotting. The mortality rate is higher in the Apalachicola National Forest than the harvest rate. That is your asset. It's your forest. It's America's forest. So I think to your issue is that we need to expand beyond fossil fuels, period. But that would also mean other energy opportunities that I think we are absolutely being hammered on and not taking advantage of, such as, I mentioned, the biofuel. In 1970, there were 400 sawmills in this country. 400. Today, there's 129. There's one in the entire state of Colorado. One. We're not managing our forest right. And then when lightning strikes, because those forests are mismanaged terribly, when that lightning strikes and that fire starts, now we are seeing people's lives destroyed because of fires running away and burning through neighborhoods and burning homes and assets to the ground. This is a win-win. It's better for the environment to manage a forest. And it's smart. It creates jobs, which, by the way, we need. The fastest growing segment of jobs are part-time jobs, not full-time jobs. And you cannot enjoy upward mobility without a job, a full-time job. And so therefore, I think that when you go to a community like Liberty County and Bristol, and you see the policies of Washington, D.C., and how it relates to our national forest, it is sinful. Okay? We're not talking about going in there and destroying the national forest. A national forest is not a national park. Smoky Mountain National Park in Tennessee and North Carolina is designed to be preserved. A national forest is designed to be a working forest that is designed for conservation, that it is worked, that it is thinned. And so through different processes now called wilderness distinction, they've now gone into national forests and identified areas that they don't want to be harvested, and now they call those areas wilderness areas, making those basically national parks inside of a designed national forest. The proof's in the pudding. And we're talking about an industry that millions of Americans depend upon, not just for the production of wood and for the health of our forests, but also for the energy, the biomass, that I think most people believe is a positive direction to get us away from fossil fuels. But I do think that it takes a process. So as we move down in our consumption of fossil fuels, we're moving up in the expansion of some of these other areas that are affordable to us. And I think that unfortunately I don't see a willingness by this administration to move in that direction.
All right, the next question is from Lee Colson. Lee? Where's Lee? Lee, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'd like to ask one question.
Please.
Mr. Southerland, I was reading a report from the Meals on Wheels Association of America Foundation, and they said that Florida was in the top 10 of seniors facing starvation.
Correct.
And according to another report here, the Meals on Wheels nutrition service account, it only accounts for about 0.02%, 0.02% of the U.S. budget last year. The sequester roughly cut everything across the board. And I think you voted for the sequester.
That would be incorrect, sir.
Well, you were in favor of that.
No, sir, I did not vote for sequestration. That's what you just asked me. You asked me,
Are you, do you support that?
do I support sequestration?
Right.
No.
So you think that's a stupid idea? Huh?
Yeah, that's why I voted against it.
Okay, so you voted against it. But
I know that's disappointing to some.
okay, now.
So thank you for your acknowledging that and praising me.
I think that's smart. So you see
That's
that.
a plus. We're moving the ball.
I got another question.
I always know the answer to the question you ask.
Now, what I'm trying to do is ask you is, what are you doing for Meals on Wheels since this is being cut?
Well, let me say this. First of all, I'm a huge supporter of Meals on Wheels. And when I served on the advisory council for the Panama City Council on Aging, with Beth Collette in Tallahassee, in Panama City, they specialize on Meals on Wheels. I'm a proud former board member to that organization. Since I have been a member of Congress and coming over to Tallahassee, we have forged a wonderful relationship with elder care. What elder care does here in Tallahassee is phenomenal. We go and participate in the opportunities that they give us to go and actually deliver those meals, oftentimes to seniors and shut-ins who need that food. That food is provided by the program that you referenced, okay? But it is delivered by volunteers. I know just a month ago, we were at a local hotel here for the Elder Care Appreciation Awards dinner. And because of the relationship that I enjoy with elder care and the advocacy that I enjoy because of Meals on Wheels, they invited me to come and present those awards because of me fighting against sometimes my own leadership to stand up for what is right. You know, the one thing that I saw that night is that we gave awards for individuals for 10-year service, 20-year service, 30-year service, and then we gave some awards to individuals for over 40 years of volunteer service delivering Meals on Wheels. And I remember two particular individuals. There were two of those awards. One was an elderly woman who was nearing 90 years of age. And so for over 40 years, this individual, okay, has hot days, cold days, rainy days, arthritic days perhaps, delivered those meals. So that's why when I took the position of being the Republican lead for the anti-poverty initiative, I immediately reached out to Congresswoman Marcia Fudge from Ohio. Now, Marcia Fudge is the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus. And so I reached out to her and we met. And Marcia and I found that this topic of Meals on Wheels is a topic that I believe in and a topic that she believes in. And so the next thing we did is I offered to have a reception at my home in Tallahassee, my apartment in in Washington, D.C. And we invited, and we had 12 members of the Congressional Black Caucus come to my home and met with 15 members of the Republican side, and we visited. No media. We wanted to get to know each other. We wanted to address the issue of poverty and how it relates to each of our districts. And we began to understand that we have members on our side that were born in poverty and that have been benefactors of programs when they were vulnerable. Meals on Wheels, sir, is a fabulous program. I am proud to have not voted for sequestration. Sequestration is a lazy way to govern. 2% across the board cuts, that's lazy. Why would I only want to cut a bad program by 2%? As a business owner, I wouldn't. So therefore, I'm proud of that vote. That vote created a super committee, which I feel like literally undermined the spirit of true representation. Why would I take our voting card of Florida's 2nd Congressional District and give that voting card to 12 other members of Congress who got there the same way I did? Also, I will remind you that one of the reasons that I did not vote for sequestration is because I promised I would not do anything to harm our seniors.
Oh,
And
you voted to cut my Social Security.
in that bill cut Medicare by $150 billion. And I could not do that, sir. So not only did I disagree with across-the-board cuts, not only did I disagree with the super committee and the spirit of representation that violated, I also disagreed with the Medicare cuts, and I will continue to fight for Meals on Wheels.
Okay. My next question is,
That's
this is the same,
Last clarification, because we got a lot of.
this is
people
a,
here.
since you supported of seniors that for nutrition, why not do the same thing for the kids for nutrition? Because you just said you took the that part of nutrition out of the farm bill.
No.
And yes, you did. You
No.
just said you took it out of the farm bill.
No. Let me say this. I had an amendment in the Farm Bill, personally.
I know.
Okay, the
You took
Southerland
it out.
amendment.
You
Have you
took it
read
out.
my 16-page bill?
No, I didn't read that, but I read
Okay.
where you took the
16
nutrition.
pages. It's not that long.
But I'll read.
Okay. Well, we'll help get you a copy of it. Because if you read my amendment stated this clearly. And I'm thrilled that you brought this up because some in the media will not report this the way it actually was written. Here was my amendment. Here was my amendment. That for able-bodied individuals of working age that are physically, mentally, psychologically able to work, excluding, and it's clear, the language is there, excluding children, excluding the disabled, and excluding seniors, that the able-bodied people should either work 20 hours, train for work, look for work, or volunteer, perhaps deliver Meals on Wheels like the 90-year-old woman I gave an award to. Now, the issue is 82% of America and over 70% of those who are Democrats believe in what I just said. Able-bodied people. So it excluded.
How many children? How many students? Are you going to eliminate? See, that's what you didn't put in there. You're eliminating a lot of children and seniors by putting that in there.
That's
Okay,
right.
thank you.
The school lunch program and breakfast program is in there too.
Juan, where are you?
That was not my amendment. That was not my amendment. Sir, it was not my amendment.
All right, let's move on. We got a lot, folks, let me tell you, we got a lot, we're not gonna get to all the questions, obviously, so we're trying to keep this within the time frame that we promised. Every question will be answered. Lori has committed from the staff, so hopefully everybody's got their email on here.
No, we get form letters with bullshit in it.
So why signs
Let me say this, Steve. I am not.
Ma'am, I have a child over here. Could you watch your language?
Let me say this. We are not going to subject those that I represent to such language.
You might as well get used to it.
No, I'm not going to have my son do
Might as well get out.
Might as well get out.
Why don't you talk about Social Security?
And let me say this, sir, and I know we got law enforcement here, and if someone is adding to discourse, we want to be respectful. And for you to use language that I would not use, nor anyone else would deem proper, is unacceptable. And so I will not. I will respect each and every one of you, even those who disagree with me. Okay? And that needs to be our decorum.
Very good, very good. Juan, would you like me to ask the question?
No, I'll read the question.
You want to? Juan, just so everybody knows, Juan signs his question with go nobles.
Congressman Southerland, my question is the fact that Senator Rubio's bill has already passed the Senate, it's on its way to the House, as you alluded to earlier, and it seems doomed to failure.
It seems what?
It seems doomed to fail
Okay.
in the House. would you, in any way, shape, or form, provide a pathway to citizenship for individuals such as myself that have been in this country for over 10 years, have studied here, and it's basically a provision that even moderate Republicans in the Senate support? Would you provide a pathway to citizenship for individuals such as myself that are trying to improve their lives, have the American dream, and be productive members of society?
Let me, and thank you for the respect in which you asked your question. It's much easier to answer a question when it's asked in such a manner.
Can you repeat the question? We couldn't hear it all.
We're talking over here, we can't hear, I'm sorry. You want to,
You want me to,
yeah, can you repeat it? Yeah, let me just, or I can just read it.
one, you confirm whether I'm reading this correct, because I don't want
Go ahead.
On the subject of immigration, what are your proposals or views to fix, or did I read the wrong?
I think that's the wrong one.
That is the wrong one.
Here you go. You had 2 questions on here, I think, one. Why did you repeal DACA? No. On the subject of immigration, what are your proposals and views to fix all?
That wasn't your question.
That was okay, you have a different question.
You want to just ask it again?
Yeah.
So they can hear.
Yeah.
Sure. The fact that Senator Rubio's bill has passed the Senate and is on its way to the House, it seems doomed to failure, despite the fact that many moderate Republicans support this bill. Do you support in any way, shape, or form a pathway to citizenship for young immigrants who have been here basically their whole lives and want to seek to become productive members of society, are being currently educated in the United States, and would contribute heavily to an American economy that is desperate for engineers and other STEM-related fields?
This will be, by some, very upsetting, and some of my own supporters. But I think the reason that the reason I agree with Senator Rubio in his desire and his intent is our current system is not working. It is broke. Okay, there need to be efficiencies, and there needs to be an opportunity for people who want to come to this country, who want to live here and make a better life for themselves. Just like, if we're all honest, our great-great-grandparents and their parents came to this country. We're a country of immigration. We're a country of immigrants. And so the one thing I don't agree with is where anyone who is here that is not enjoying legal status, okay, because they got here some other way, for them to in any way get ahead of anyone who is trying to pursue legal immigration, which also needs reform, by the way. Okay, so the whole process needs to be reformed. So I think that once acknowledgement has been made, perhaps that a wrong has been committed, because I do believe we are a nation of laws. And we do know that if you were here, you got here in a way other than a legal process, that you broke a law. Now, that has to be acknowledged. And when a law is broken, there is a penalty that must be paid. I'm not here today to propose to you what that penalty should be. Again, I'm not on judiciary. I know that will be very forthcoming. Okay? I know that my House colleagues, such as Mario Diaz-Balart and Ileana Roth-Layton and Raul Labrador from Idaho, these are individuals that are serving and are working on that answer, what that penalty would be. But I think once the wrong has been admitted, okay, and a penalty is being paid, okay, and the debt to society is being paid, then that individual can go through the path to citizenship that we already have and not enjoy status to get in front of anyone else. I think that's common sense, because I do agree with you. To take someone who has studied here, someone who is brilliant, and someone who can add to America going forward, okay, who's willing to come up and say, hey, this was a wrong, I admit this wrong, I pay my debt, what can I do to pursue a positive life for myself? We need to find a way to make that happen.
Quick follow-up, actually.
Sure.
The follow-up is, you said that these individuals should support a penalty. I myself came here when I was 4 years old. What kind of penalty do you believe I should serve?
Well, let me say
or individuals such as me should serve.
Right.
And also the fact that I mentioned pathway to citizenship. Pathway to citizenship doesn't necessarily mean you're going to skip in front of someone
No, I agree.
in line.
I would
It
agree.
means that you are going to eventually become a citizen and take the steps. I know many individuals, such as myself, have paid their taxes
I understand.
and have done everything possible, and we just came when we were young with our parents.
Right.
So
And let
what
me
kind
say
of
this,
penalty do you think I
It
should
is
have?
not proper to not take what you just said, and for you personally, into consideration. Okay, I'm agreeing with you. Okay, and so that's why when I listen to individuals who are really much closer than I on a daily basis to this issue, to their constituents, such as Mario, such as Raul Labrador, who's Republican, Hispanic, from Idaho, who's also an immigration attorney. I look to their counsel and I look to their advice because that's their area of expertise. And remember, I'm on transportation, I'm on natural resources, and I served on agriculture. So those are my committees of oversight. So when Mario comes to my office and visits with me and gives me a report of what they're looking at, they're addressing some of those questions that you're asking. But I can't say to you something I don't know. And so, but I can acknowledge and affirm your situation, and everything you've done must be taken into consideration.
Right, but you said we are a nation of laws.
We are.
So the fact that you're taking into consideration some individuals over others, that kind of contradicts the statement that we're a nation of laws. Shouldn't there be a law that supports everyone rather than just a simple few? Shouldn't there be
Absolutely.
a general law? The
Well,
fact
sure.
that you're taking into consideration some individuals over other
Well,
individuals
no, but-
isn't really fair to the whole.
Well, I would
spectrum
agree,
of
but
individuals.
speeding is not speeding. You know that if you go out here on I-10 and you speed and you're 5 miles over the speed limit, that ticket will be very different than the speed limit that if you were doing 30 miles over the speed limit. There are degrees, okay? So a law has been broken. Now, the severity of that calls for discretion. And so therefore, whether it applies to immigration or whether it applies to speeding, I don't think I'm violating the rule of law by acknowledging that there are different degrees. Certainly you would, that seems to be rational.
I would just like a complete law that would affect, that would be general, concise, and would be amenable to every single immigrant that's currently being affected by this.
I think that to be truly successful, when you say, okay, what does success look like in a general 50,000 foot view, I think that everyone should know exactly where they are, okay, and it should be definable, okay, and that's what is being done at the committee level. They are addressing that definable, and they're talking about the border, they're talking about interior security, they're talking about things such as E-Verify, they're talking about things such as the path, as you referenced, they're talking about penalty, they're talking about all those things, okay? Now, I get that secondhand information because I'm not on those committees, okay? So that's why I lean upon my members who are on those committees to be able, and right now that's all working. As we speak, that's all being debated. Chairman Goodlatte, who is the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and my friend Trey Gowdy from South Carolina, I mean, this is what they're doing every day, and that is a work in process. So I would say to you that much more coming, and hopefully coming in a way that all Americans can agree is in the best interest of America.
And what are you finally doing for Latin
I'm
American
sorry.
citizens?
We got many more people
Yeah.
we have to get to. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Louise Rothman. Louise? Okay, Louise, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. I'm asking a question that is a human rights issue of international impact. This is a resolution introduced by a fellow Republican and co-signed by a Democrat. House Resolution 281. My friend Lin Jiang, who's from mainland China, is a U.S. citizen, is also here on behalf of this resolution. This addresses compelling evidence of China's state-sanctioned forced organ harvesting of prisoners of conflict in China. And I want to say how this impacts us here. The victims of this forced organ harvesting in China are members of ethnic and religious minority groups and Falun Gong practitioners. Falun Gong is a meditation and self-cultivation practice that is founded in China's traditional principles of true compassion and forbearance. And it is The Falun Gong practitioners make up the largest percentage of prisoners of conscience in China today because the communist regime does not tolerate freedom of belief. What impact this has on Americans? Americans travel to China for organ transplants. You can get an organ transplant within weeks or even days in China. It's because there's a vast pool of prisoners of conscience and a database. These people are killed for their organs. American patients and the medical community need to know about this so they don't become accomplices to this kind of murder for profit. And I feel also the United States needs to send a message to the world that we stand by the Chinese people, not by this communist regime, and that we stand on our founding principles of freedom of belief and freedom of religion and human rights. China is a rising power, and I feel very dangerous one. And I feel that human rights have been put under the table for too long. So I'm asking if you would co-sign House Resolution 289 along with your fellow Republicans, many Republicans and Democrats. And last I checked, there were 88 co-signers.
Well, first of all, thanks for coming and educating perhaps me and others on this very, very important issue. I think that my promise to you today is that and I think you said that the sponsor on the House side, the Republican side, was Ileana, who I know quite well. And as a matter of fact, I will see Ileana next week. And so I will be down at meetings with her. My promise to you today is that I will have a one-on-one discussion with her regarding this bill. We will request a copy of this bill. We will read this bill. And then upon reading that bill, we will do our due diligence to see if that meets it meets a standard that we have in our office to co-sponsor and then ultimately vote for a bill that we have gone through that process for. So my promise to you is this. I will have a one-on-one conversation, not between staff and staff, between me and Ileana, one-on-one. I will also engage our staffs because that's a necessary part of our process. And if you would allow us to have your contact information, and yours too, sir, we will communicate directly with you in an expedient manner to get some resolution to your request. And we will do that. I would offer that to anyone. So.
Who has that contact information?
Well, and let me be just clear on the issue though,
Yeah.
because you talked about the human rights violation. We see human rights violations all around this world. I am concerned oftentimes when I hear those in Washington, D.C. that hold certain countries up in high esteem. Countries that are violating the personal and human rights of people. And so, you know, that is but the rights of conscience, let me say this. Our founding fathers understood rights of conscience. And that at no point in time should your faith and what you believe, your religious beliefs, be a violation of a law of the government. And I won't connect dots for you, but you know what I'm thinking about. So I've been very clear on both of those. Very consistent.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. Thank you very much. Greg Marr. Where's Greg?
Right here.
Greg?
Representative Southerland, we all know the adage that those who fail to learn from the lessons of history are doomed to repeat them. And many topics, important topics, have been discussed here this morning. While the lessons of history are being learned around the globe on this, it seems the most fundamental threat to the future of our republic are our fiscal policies and the resulting monetary policies that are creating annual budget deficits and resulting national debt that every actuary on the planet agrees is ultimately to become unsustainable and destroy our ability to pay our bills, undermine the purchasing value of our savings and our dollars. What is Congress doing, and specifically what are you doing to get a handle on this crisis?
Well, I would agree with you, Greg, that Washington spends more money than it has. And that's not a new thing. That predates any one administration. That's been going on for a long time. If you look at the massive government expansion through the early 2000s, it has just accelerated, but it was on a glide path that was not positive. I mean, we continue to spend money we do not have. I'm very concerned, and you referenced monetary policy in your question or your comments. I'm very concerned that we continue to print money we do not have, and that will result in inflation. And that is silent and quiet. That doesn't make the news, but I want everyone to understand that is a lifestyle tax. Because when a $100 bill is used by you to buy groceries, and the grocery cart over here that $100 bill is used to pay for, that is full of your groceries. When that same $100 bill can no longer fill a grocery basket, but perhaps a basket that you now have to carry because it won't pay for, the dollar won't go as far. That's a tax. That's a tax. And that's a tax that monetary policy has instituted. We are spending money we do not have. I am terribly concerned with what happens if, with rising inflation, you also have another running mate of it, higher interest rates. Because when you owe $17 trillion and you're paying interest on that, you know, and we spend as a country hundreds of billions of dollars on interest. I think, what could we do with that money that's interest, that goes to countries like China and goes to other countries around the world who have bought our debt who do not have similar values to us? That is not a positive position to be in. Because I do believe this, that the borrower will eventually, without a change in behavior, become slave to the lender. So, Greg, and what we are doing, we are in a responsible way hoping to bend that curve down. Now, I have voted for a budget twice that balances in 10 years. That is our position. That going into debt and going into budget negotiations, we have got, for the future generations of America, we have to bend that curve down. And so my votes are very clear on those votes. I think there's a responsible way to do it. I don't think sequestration was necessarily the responsible way. But I do think that my votes are very clear, you know, on my budget votes, okay, that bend that cost curve down. And I will say this. I do not believe, and I'll say this in closing, I do not believe that that is the single greatest threat to America and our future. From the vantage point that I'm in, and what I have witnessed as I've traveled the country and traveled my district, so much of the problems that I face really point me to what I believe is the single greatest threat we face. And that is the disintegration of the family. I think because here's the thing, we are talking on all these issues, they are, I could argue that they are but symptoms to a bigger problem. Now, there are people who just despise what I just said. I'm aware. But let me say this. You cannot argue with the success of a family of children in the best environment, growing up in a home where they're loved and secured and provided for. Okay, all the evidence is in. And by the way, it's thousands of years of evidence. Okay, that those children have the best chance to grow and to prosper, okay, in an environment that is consistent, in an environment that is predictable. Okay, to say that we can create chaos at home and chaos in the family in some way, just by miraculous intervention somehow, that we will continue to function in a way that produces order, is folly. The family. And I know this, when I speak to members of law enforcement, and I say to them, what is the single greatest problem you have? And they often say, people who are juvenile or recent juvenile and grew up without the benefit of a highly functioning, caring family. And that's the reason we're dealing with some of the problems that we're dealing with. That represents tremendous cost to America. Intellectual cost. When 70% of our students in inner cities are not graduating. When countries like China, countries like India, their top 10 educated population is larger than our entire student population. We cannot compete on a global market and a global economy with numbers like that. We are at a tremendous disadvantage, and I can argue, now having been there for 2.5 years, that I see that disintegration of family being the root cause to so many of our problems. I want to say thank you to all of you for being here, and I want to say that it is a privilege to have you here, to come out and to meet with us and to ask questions. I want to thank Steve Evans. I want to thank you for being with us today. You're a wonderful guest. I want to thank Florida State for being here, or for allowing us to be here, and their personnel that are here. I also want to thank all of you for coming, giving us this hour of your day. Please be careful driving on the wet roads, and I look forward to seeing you somewhere in the near future. Thank you so much.